Hi everybody and welcome to sunny Sydney Motorsport Park for round 3 of Formula Drift Asia. That's right, the series that has been to Thailand and Japan now arrives in Australia, and we have some of the biggest names in world drifting. They've come from absolutely everywhere, like Freddie Asbo. He's come all the way. He's the current series leader from Norway. We've got some of the best guys from Thailand and Japan here to take on the recognisable stars of Australia and New Zealand. So as you're probably aware, drifting runs, well, a little bit different to most kinds of motorsport. It's all about getting out there on the track, one-on-one battles. So we'll run you through the format today and explain to you a bit about how this amazing sport works. Drivers are sent out onto the track 2 at a time to do these battles, and one car will do the leading, the other car has to initiate into a chase before they swap it over. It's all about impressing 3 judges who will judge according to the following criteria. They're looking for 3 basic things: line, angle, and style. Now, line is all about going through the racetrack, getting to the inside and outside of the circuit, taking the maximum and best line through it. The angle is pretty much as it sounds, getting the car as sideways as humanly possible. And then style, well, that's pretty much subjective. All about a bit of speed, plenty of smoke, and just trying to put on a bit of a show for the punters that line the fences at these drift events. At the end of the day, the judges pick one driver to head on through. It's an elimination style where we end up with 2 drivers fighting for the goal at the end of the day. Well, it wouldn't be Formula Drift without attracting some of the biggest names and the baddest cars. They don't get much bigger or badder than Mad Mike Widet in the quad rotor RX-7. He's here to take on some of the very best from all over the globe.
Of all the bulls out of our stable, it's definitely the hardest one to drive. Yeah, 537 horsepower, which is pretty good out of an NA, but this is definitely the showstopper of the lot. Yeah, World Time Attack, we've come in now 4 years and we have a huge fan base over here in Australia, which is awesome, and I really enjoy coming to the track, seeing the fans. This is actually the original drift car I built in 2006 when I decided to build a drift car. This is still the same car, so every year, you know, it goes through all its a full rebuild, and we've gone from, you know, originally it had a naturally aspirated 3-rotor engine, now runs the 4-rotor naturally aspirated. Produces not much torque, but yeah, it's just a different driving style. You got to keep it in the high RPMs, and it's a real fun car to drive. That's one thing with the drifting, is just trying to make this car like part of your body, so it's just an extension. Because we're judged on our line, speed and angle, it's really about put the car as close as you can to all these proximity, the points and zones throughout the section. Speed Hunter's teammate Frederick Asbo, he's leading the Asia Championship at the moment. He's got an amazing car, an amazing team behind him. So of course he's probably the main guy to catch for the weekend. But like I say, we've got the top guys out of New Zealand. A few of them have come over as well. So we've got a good team to sort of battle out for New Zealand versus Australia. But then of course, being the Asia Championship of Formula Drift, there's all the top guys out of Thailand and Singapore, Malaysia, that are all fighting for that win as well.
Well, this really is exciting. A nice sunny day welcoming Formula Drift Asia and all our viewers to Sydney Motorsport Park for what promises to be one of the biggest ever drift events in the country. I've got Dave Carter along for the ride, and Dave, we're going to check out some of the highlights from the round of 32, and it kicked off in controversial fashion. Max Arito, one of the legends, taking out Rob White.
A spot in the top 16 stolen from Rob White right here by Arito with a very controversial decision for the judges. I mean, look at that gap coming up the hill. He was definitely the better driver there, but what can you do? That's drifting.
That is drifting. Daisuke Hasegawa getting the nod ahead of Dale Campaign in their first matchup today in this round of 32.
The two 180SXs just climbing the hill with style there, and a lot of smoke across the finish line.
So good start to our Japanese visitors. We also have some visitors from Thailand, and they drew a bit of a short straw here because Oat was up against Scott Shimmery, who is in seriously good form so far this weekend.
This local's an expert on South Circuit, and it really shows.
The second of the M150 cars up against another one of our best in Josh Bocher. So harsh for our visitors to rock up and walk up against some of Australia's best.
Shane Van Gisbergen doing a really good job to keep it off Papadopoulos here with a bit of an understeer on the entry, but it really shows the expert of this driver in the Commodore.
Yeah, the Just Car Insurance leading the way and finally managed to get a little bit of momentum, but it was probably the entry that hurt him there. Van Gisbergen moving through to the round of 16. Here's another one of Australia's best, the Drift Kid, Nick Coulson in the Achilles Ute.
It's great to see him put some distance on this high-powered JZX90 up the hill. He's really an expert driver, especially on South Circuit.
One of the few of the V8 cars that we have this weekend, and here's a bit of a local matchup with James Abbott. Abbott driving the Hi-Tech All 350Z and the Toyota wins combo, this one of another one of Australia's best in Bo Yates.
Yeah, Bo Yates' entry was just a bit down on speed there, and it's very difficult to catch up the hill.
Especially this one, Bo Yates really balking it on the entry. And Jabbett caught out with that one, didn't want to go bending the brand new 350Z, will cop a loss for that one. And how about the smoke pouring off the back of the 86?
Gaz Wider representing New Zealand here with Ryan Cummings on the chase, and he's doing a very good job to close the gap here until a brake check from Gaz Wider really forces him into a touch and a spin.
So Gaz Wider goes through to the final 16. One of the fantastic things about this event this weekend is it gives us a chance to expose some of our best Aussie drifters to the world. This weekend we have two big names in Australian drifting, Bo Yates and James Abbott, representing Australia and taking on some of Asia's best.
Yeah, definitely excited to be involved this weekend. Got the big names from overseas and some top level drivers from Australia. This is literally the cream of the crop. The best drivers in the world all congregate here, and to have them come to Australia and do it on our home track it's amazing.
Formula D's been a dream of mine for probably, I've been competing since 2003 in this country, so these guys are like good international names that are well recognised around the globe for drifting, so it's really exciting to be on the same grid as them.
This weekend I was asked to drive for Hi-Tech Oils in their 350Z. The thing's crazy, 700 horsepower twin turbo V8. It just sprays tyres everywhere.
So the Win's Nitto 86. It's relatively new to me. I've changed over into the new chassis. Over the last 8 months we've been competing pretty good in. I've got a couple of podium positions in it now, which is good, and obviously the car's moving its way through the field and is super competitive.
This is where, as drifters, where we all want to be, a bit more speed, sort of third, fourth gear corners, really sort of open up these cars are set up to slide at high speed. Figure 8 is amazing, it's good fun and great atmosphere, gets all the crowd close together and real tight proximity on the battles, but as a driver you just want to go fast.
I think it's anyone's game at the end of the day. I mean, there's a lot of good drivers out here, and it comes down to track and cars, and you know, there's so many different variables in drifting, so it's really anyone's game.
Max Arito, he's an entertaining driver. Arsbo, he would definitely be one to watch. But my money's on my boy Shimmery, teammate, 3 Fingers and Knee Blaze unit. He's in his own car. He knows his track like the back of his hand. He knows his own car, obviously, so he's going to be underestimated by a few people, I think.
So we have the final 16, and they are 16 of the best from all around Australia and Asia. You're watching Formula Drift Asia here at Sydney Motorsport Park. It's all thanks to Hi-Tech Oils and Achilles Radials. A good crowd in the house today. And Dave, we're going to check out the battles now for the top 16. Some big names to watch out for as well. And the first one's going to be an all RSR affair.
Yeah, we've got Frederick Arspo versus Manabu Arito, both very respected international drivers here to show the crowd what it's like to drift on an international level.
A couple of big-name Kiwis, including Shane van Gisbergen and Mad Mike Widet. Everyone's favourite RX-7 is here. The quad rotor, that thing absolutely screams. It's not what RSR would have been wanting to see their two teammates do battle, because it means that one of them won't be making it through to the final 8 at Sydney Motorsport Park.
As they come off the line, really take note of the way the chicane is put in there to stop it from being a high-powered drag race off the line. We want a lot of proximity on the entry here, because with South Circuit at the uphill, it's hard to put a gap on.
It's the Toyota 86 that will do the leading.
Right on each other here, and you see a textbook initiation from both drivers. They're really international level drivers. The transition was a bit slow there from Arito, letting Arsbo really put a gap on up the hill. He is chasing, but I don't think that'll be enough.
Yeah, the proximity just slipping away towards the end. A grab of the handbrake and let's go sideways with one of the world's best, Max Arito.
The handwork here really is next level, but you can see the car's just snapped around on him a bit quickly there, and that's where he's really let it go. Little handbrake taps on the transitions as well to try and get that angle in there. Yeah, it's a rough ride.
It's an amazing circuit, isn't it? The South Circuit, as we go up and over the S-bend. It's got a couple of unusual transitions and a couple of blind corners, and now Max Arito, who's not actually competing so much for the points in Formula Drift Asia. The guy that is doing the chasing right now from Norway, Fredrik Arsbo, he's leading the points and he gets very close. Good proximity.
Oh, right on the quarter there. You can see Arsbo's just really outclassing his teammate here, so he probably does deserve to go through to represent RSR.
That was very nice. You're riding on board in the Toyota 86. The window almost popping out of the side of this thing as we go back into that transition. Proximity was nice.
Yeah, you can see in the front of Arsbo's car, he's definitely got some sort of modified knuckle setup, running the tiny wheels there to give you a lot of clearance on the inner guard.
And no surprise that Arsbo got the tick of approval from all three of our judges as we continue now on to the next battle. And this is going to be Templeman up against the second of our Japanese competitors that are left in the final 16.
Templeman leading Hasegawa here with a textbook entry, and you can really hear that rotary scream over the S chassis chasing him. Loading up that elevation change up the hill and just leaving Hasegawa behind.
Hasegawa slipping back into the smoke and giving up a fair bit of distance. Let's ride on board with our Japanese import sideways through the first corner.
Yeah, it's really difficult chasing down the hill there. You could see a little bit of a lock-up from Hasegawa trying to maintain proximity, but then as soon as the elevation changes up the hill, you really got to get on it so the other car doesn't leave you behind.
Amazing the amount of debris and the tiny shards of rubber flicking off these tyres as we climb the hill.
Now, he didn't quite hand it away, so I'll be interested to see how Hasegawa enters here. He's got to be really aggressive to make up for it, and he was. Look at that.
Scandinavian flick on entry to get the back end around. The RX-7 may be thinking that he has something of an advantage.
Yeah, and he really does. Like, look at the proximity he's giving up that hill there. He didn't make a mistake.
A massive amount of lock. Let's just check this out once again. Hasegawa backing it in nicely through the first corner. But again, amazing amount of lock.
Yeah, a lot of angle from Templeman here, and you can see those front tyres are a bit worse for wear, even with the little lock up there as well.
And all three judges unanimous in their decision, so Templeman will knock out our final remaining Japanese driver. So the two Japanese guys have been knocked around a bit in the very beginning of today, and now it's Scott Shimmery in the Blaze Unit, Three Fingers Neat Nissan, and Andy Gray, someone who knows this South Circuit well both of them do.
Yeah. As much as Shimmery's a local, Andy Gray's really flexed his entry muscle every time he's come over from Japan to Sydney. And he really knows how to steer that JZX100. It's a powerful car and very well set up, but Shimmery did well to chase him. Going to the replay now, you can see they're very close here, but Andy Gray just had much more angle on the entry, a lot of smoke. He knows how to please the crowd, but then again, Shimmery's local knowledge shows how he can get right up on the angle through the hill.
Gray just clipped the curb, and that gave Shimmery a chance to close up that proximity. As the punters watch on, there's a good feeling up in the crowd today. A few barbecues, a few eskies, people enjoying the sights, the sounds, the smoke of Formula Drift in Asia. Fair bit of handbrake work from Shimmery to back in the Nissan.
Yeah, coming up the hill here, you can see just how crucial that elevation change is. If you put some distance on there, you're going to keep it for the rest of the track.
Nice angle from Shimmery. The last 2 or 3 corners throws up the smoke screen. Probably a bit difficult for Andy Gray to even see.
Heading to the replay here, you can really see Andy's textbook Nico flick entry there. He's given it a little bit of a flick the other way, but really wound the angle on through the entry. But maybe going so deep there made him miss out on the upper parts of the track.
How good is that for a setup? Not a bad spot to sit and watch motorsport for your afternoon. It's all part of the Yokohama World Time Attack that's been going on this weekend. We're off to a break shortly, but first let's catch up with Max Arito. He's one of the best anywhere in the world, a legend of the drift circuit. This time he's coming to Australia to compete alongside Frederick Asbo as part of the RSR team. It's Max Arito.
非常にハッピーです。チームも RSR チーム。
I'm very happy to be here in Sydney. I'm also very happy to be working with RSR. I've been working with RSR for a long time, so I'm very happy to be able to come to Sydney with a good team.
僕はね、シリーズには参戦してなくて、今回。
I'm actually not in the Formula Drift series, but so I'm here as a sport guest. But it is a very exciting event, and Formula Drift the next round will be held in Japan, and I believe it's the last round. So it's quite interesting with Sydney's round and also the Japanese round how the championship will go. It'll be a very exciting times in these last 2 rounds. My first impression is mostly a lot of the Australian drivers are very highly skilled, and it's very hard to say who will win. I think all of them have a good chance to win.
Completing the superstar lineup that is RSR is this fast and sideways Norwegian. Born in ski but living out of California, Frederick Asbo is leading the championship points after a win in Thailand. And now he arrives at Sydney Motorsport Park to continue his hot form.
We call the car the Fusion Kitchen because it's, built in Japan and has an American heart, a Norwegian driver, some Australian parts even, the transmission. So it's a cool little setup we've got going here. A lot of noise from that NASCAR V8, and I think it suits this track pretty well. We came in for the first time last year with Formula Drift in Melbourne, and that was a true success. This year they wanted to do a different venue, and I think piggybacking off of World Time Attack Challenge is it's the best thing they could have done. It's a great track, which is pretty fast. You throw it in there with a lot of angle, then you kind of try and find your line through there. Drifting is a sport where anything can happen, and we're trying to control cars that are out of control, meaning there's a lot of carnage and crashes and spins. And I think what's really typical about the Australian scene is the grip and the speed. They have a lot of speed here, and people have really been focusing on getting through the course as quick as possible, maybe sacrificing some style in the process. But I think Levi Clark is doing amazing. And then you have the New Zealand heroes like Jake Jones and my teammate Mad Mike. So I know a lot of these guys style pretty well, but some of the local guys I don't have a whole lot of data on, so I'm definitely watching those guys.
Frederick Asbo, currently the world number 2, off the back of finishing second in the Formula Drift Championship in the USA. As we push it forward now, Levi Clark out of Queensland and Josh Bocher doing battle.
Bocher's really got some good proximity on that entry there. It's really hard to judge on that high-speed downhill run. He's managing to maintain it on Clark up the hill as well, which is pretty impressive. But Clark with that just extra angle, that little bit on top.
So nice run through. Let's go for a ride on the back of Levi Clark's car right now, sideways into that first corner. There's the proximity that Dave was talking about. Now, through the right hand here, both guys just dropping the front splitters into the grass.
Yeah, it's really hard. If you get that entry too deep, it stuffs your line for the rest of the way up the hill. So you can see they've both just had that little mistake there, keeping it even.
So tough to say if anyone's got a real advantage going into the second run between these guys. You go back around the circuit, running, of course, on the South Circuit since we have extended or redeveloped Sydney Motorsport Park. And now it's time for Levi Clark to do the chase.
It'll be interesting to see if Bocher can match that proximity, but a big entry from Clark there. Real slick style, which the judges love to see.
Nice on the transition and good angle as well. Levi Clark turning it on, just gets to the inside of the clipping point and actually flicks one of the cones, but that was very impressive from a chase car.
Heading to the Achilles replay here, we ride with Bocher looking back at Clark to analyse both of the runs. Now, Bocher had a much better entry there, but Clark coming up the hill really put the proximity on him. It's going to be a difficult one for the judges despite a couple of weird clips.
Yeah, so it's all about the initiation being quite good for Josh Bocher, but then Clark doing a lot to gain back that proximity up the hill. And yes, 2 out of 3 judges want to go one more time. So this is going to be a rerun. So back into the pits, they are allowed to change tyres. We go through tyres very quickly in Formula Drift, as you can imagine, and the boys head back up. We'll do it all again with Bocher to do the chasing this time. The tap-out energy car will assume the lead, and sideways into the first corner we go.
Oh, perfectly emulated entry from the pair there, so this is going to be a very tough one to decide again.
And good angle from Clark right at the very end. Bocher just getting onto the grass right at the very end. We're right on board Achilles Radials replay once again, and exactly the same angle on both cars. So good emulation from Bocher up the hill.
Yeah, right up on his quarter panel there. He's doing his best to just chase this guy down.
And giving him enough room to make that transition on each occasion. Not bad proximity from Josh Bocher as we get set to now do the reverse of what we just saw. So Bocher, left of screen, will reassume his spot in the lead. Sideways through the first left-hander, lets it all hang out, gets right to the clipping point.
Bocher's entry there was just phenomenal. That's what the crowd wants to see. Unfortunately, it put him a bit deep there, which makes for some slow transitions up the hill. Holding up Clark behind him, and he's just going to hand him the win.
So Clark doing a good job to follow in the smoke, and this was a story of almost trying a little bit too hard up through the gears. Look at the handbrake for Levi Clark.
Yeah, you can see him trying to chase close here, but with the slower lead car, he's just held up. There's not really much he can do there. Working frantically at the wheel to try and pump in as much angle as he can.
So not too surprisingly, all 3 judges go and give that one to the Queenslander. So Levi Clark going through and asking the crowd for some support. Shane Van Gisbergen is hot property in V8 supercars. He just loves to drive, and we've seen that with him competing in D1 NZ. Now he's bringing his drift skills to Australia.
Yeah, it's been an awesome weekend, and jumped straight from the time attack car to the drift car for qualifying. But yeah, great of the Drift Syndicate guys to have me along. It's been an awesome week. All the big names I like to watch are here, so it's been cool to battle against Asbo in practice, and Mad Mike as well. So yeah, all the top FD Asia guys came over too, so that was pretty cool to see. But in practice, basically just watching them in awe. They're pretty talented guys, but we got the Commodore going pretty good at the end there. The hardest part is getting close to other people, so yeah, we got the car set up so it chases nicely, and yeah, it's been great.
The Drift Syndicate Commodore now on track, supercharged indeed. And this guy, surprisingly, is one of the best drifters out of New Zealand. I say surprisingly because we're used to seeing him try and keep it nice and clean in a V8 supercar, but you watch Shane Van Gisbergen throw it sideways. He is one of the best. He's chasing down Michael Rosenblatt, who gets really wide on the clipping point.
Right on the bumper for some very different proximity to what he'd be used to in the V8 supercars, dropping a couple of front wheels there, but otherwise a pretty good chase run from Gisbergen.
Maybe just lost a little bit of the angle through the middle of the track. Have a look at Rosenblatt absolutely backing it in.
Yeah, the Newlon-sponsored car of Rosenblatt is very well prepared and he's using the most of it. But Van Gisbergen behind him doing his best to emulate.
So the Nissan probably with a small advantage as the crowd watch on with their cameras and their Eskies. Plenty of good vantage points here today. He's even got his V8 Supercar race suit and helmet on as the Drift Syndicate Commodore, who does a lot of racing in New Zealand and drifting, leads us off, and it's Van Gisbergen who's sideways and backing it in. Have a look at the angle, almost losing that momentum. Catches Rosenblatt out, who instantly loses all of that proximity. Van Gisbergen turning it on, the rear bumper hanging on for dear life. Plenty of smoke, but the judges might actually ping him for this.
As we head to the Achilles replay here, we can see as Van Gisbergen tries to flex his muscle with that entry, he's just entered way too slow, bringing Rosenblatt into a forced contact with his rear bar. It's no surprise they're handing it to Rosenblatt here.
Albeit on a 2-1 decision, so Van Gisbergen goes out in the round of 16, and now we see Nick Coulson and the Achilles Radials Ute head on through against Alex Kantarovsky. They initiate the battle going through turn 1.
Nick Coulson, the drift kid, doing his best to get right up on the door there, but Kantarovsky just flexing the extra power he's got, putting out heaps of smoke and a lot of a gap on Nick Coulson.
That was a great lead run from Kantarovsky. Let's ride on board now with Coulson.
You can see him using a lot of handbrake there just to get the angle right, but also chase down Kantarovsky, but maybe it was a bit too much. He just doesn't seem to have the speed up the hill that's required to get that proximity that the judges are looking for.
It's unbelievable watching these guys let go of the steering wheel and let it do its own thing as it feeds back through the hands. And now the Achilles Ute will have a chance to do the leading. This thing throws up a proper smoke screen. It's Nick Coulson into the first corner again with Kantarovsky now doing the chasing.
Oh, that extra power is just helping him put it on the door of Nick Coulson. A little bit wide there and possibly a bit of a back off to avoid contact. It's going to be interesting to see what the judges rule on this one, but probably towards Coulson with that distance across the line.
So the slow-mo Achilles replay shows Coulson with his foot absolutely flat to the floor. And this is the point right here where Kantarovsky loses it. All three judges scoring that one to Coulson.
Yeah, that mistake just sent him wide. And once there's that uphill climb, it's very difficult to claw it back.
Mad Mike Widet, the Red Bull RX-7 quad rotor power in an all-Japanese affair with an Australian driving a Toyota 86, and it's Mad Mike to do the lead.
Yeah, Mad Mike's a real expert of the high show entries with the bake up the hill, so South Circuit's pretty much made for him. But Bo Yates having absolutely no dramas keeping up with this high-powered car, so it's going to be a very interesting battle ahead.
How good is that quad rotor sound? Let's go on board with one of New Zealand's finest.
With the replay, you can see Mad Mike's one of the few able to just give a really nice Scandinavian flick entry there, which really gives you the angle and the setup for the rest of the course. And up the hill there, just pouring smoke all over Bo Yates.
Nice run from our number 3 qualifier. Bo Yates qualified all the way down in 19th, but that will be very tough to pick a winner between those two. Yates now to do the leading. He was a bit slow in his initiation from the first run through, and that's what caught out Jabbert, and it might just catch out Mad Mike Widet with a big correction in the middle of the corner.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that a lot of the drivers here today are just trying to go too large on the entry and forcing the chase car to straighten up. It makes it very difficult for the judges to attribute blame. And now looking at this wing cam here, you can see Mad Mike doing exactly what he's meant to. Very aggressive, very close, with Bo Yates just getting off the power there and really letting the car slow down has made it difficult for both drivers.
Interesting to see how the judges score that one as a result of the contact that was made. Fell into the exact same trap that James Abbott fell for. There's the rear wheels locking up in the contact mid-corner, and Yates knocks out one of the big names. So a surprise matchup, and Yates said he wants to come and claim at least one big scalp. Well, he's done it. He's knocked out Mad Mike Widet in the top 16, and that is definitely something to tweet about.
Arguable decision taking the win off Mike Widet there for what was admittedly a mistake from Bo Yates.
So that'll be something to think about in the round of 8. Whoever lines up chasing Bo Yates will need to be careful about that first corner initiation speed. Jake Jones and Gaz Wider from New Zealand. Whoa, Jones is out wide and clips one of the cones, rips that rear bumper off. Have a look at the smoke as well. This is going to make it hard for Gaz Wider, who's actually doing a pretty good job in this chase. Clips the curb up over the hill. Nice run from both guys, to be fair.
riding on board with Gaz Wider here. You can see both of them come up for that entry, grab another gear, then grab that handbrake. Very close to Jake Jones there, but as soon as he steps on it, that RB26 powered 180SX is gone in a cloud of smoke. You can't even see him.
Fair bit of handbrake towards the top of the circuit as well, and then just steering the car with the throttle, letting the steering wheel do its work, and I think he was pretty happy with that one, enjoying himself is the New Zealander, and now it'll be Gaz Wider in the Tech Deloy car to lead us through into the initiation here.
Jake Jones doing a great job to emulate him, and you can see Gaz Wider's fallen for the exact same trap as Jake. If you go too wide there, there's just stuff to hit on the track edge. Interesting battle as they come up the hill. Jake Jones a bit wide and a bit slow. Gaz Wider across the line in front.
Yeah, Jake just seemed to lose his momentum throughout. There's the back end of Wider's car, just clipping the clipping point, so to speak. And it was from about here onwards that he looked to just run it a bit wide there, and that's what cost him the momentum, trying to change back that direction. So Gaz Wider will go on through to the final 8 here at Formula Drift. We're now down to the final 8 for the weekend. High-Tech Oils with a great presence in the pits and on the track as they help bring us Formula Drift Asia, the 3rd round of their championship, alongside with Achilles Radials. We're getting set for the final 8. We've actually lost the majority of our Asian runners here today. We had a couple of Japanese and a couple of big Thai names. They're actually back in the trailer, and it's Frederick Osbo who's leading the Formula Drift Asia points. We'll be going through in the RSR Toyota against Danon Templeman. And that matchup between Scott Shimmery and Levi Clark will be one to watch out for. Bo Yates and Gaz Wider across Tasman affair. Rosenblatt will do battle with Nick Coulson, the Drift Kid, in the Achilles Radials Ute. Let's get it on. It's the RX-7 of Templeman, and he's on track right now against the RSR Toyota, which is powered by a NASCAR motor.
Yeah, it's great to see a lot of these newer chassis working their way into drifting, and you can actually see how well set up Frederick Osbo's car here is here. If you take a note of the real skinny front tyres on there, that's actually for a lot of clearance on the inside of the car to pull the angles that he is able to pull. Like that one up over the hill.
Perfect run. Frederick Osbo proving why he is world number 2 and the best running in Asia right now. This is amazing stuff. We're right on board with Templeman. The angle at the back of the Toyota was instant. That massive amount of lock that he can feed on with those smaller tyres. Nice run, Frederick Osbo.
Steering setup is essential for any chassis, regardless of the driver here, and you can see it really flexed in both cars.
The crowd enjoying their time at Sydney Motorsport Park, the first time that Formula Drift Asia, the biggest names in drifting, have arrived in Sydney. And now Templeman will have a bit of work to do because he knows he's up against one of the best, and that first run through from Osbo was pretty much flawless.
Yeah, Osbo really knows what he's doing behind another car as well. Oh, but what's that coming out of the bottom of Templeman's car there?
That was happening earlier in the day as well. It's been like that all day, so maybe just some cooling issues in the front of the RX-7.
Might make it a bit difficult for Osbo, and you can actually see him putting on a little more angle than he normally would have through there. Could that be something to do with some fluids down on the track?
You could see it flowing out of the car pretty heavily when they took off to begin the run. Super slow-mo stuff on your Achilles radial replay. And I think this one's going to Osbo. It is. Nice proximity on that run through, and a bit more coolant splashing out the front there too.
Look at the throw-in in that transition there, and each consecutive transition, he's just super on point.
He's in the form of his life right now, Frederick Osbo, after second over in America, trying to bring that form home into Asia for RSR. A man who was born in Ski in Norway, now lives mainly in California. And we move it on now with an all-Aussie battle. Scott Shimmery and Levi Clark, who's over to the right of frame. The Queenslander up against the local Sydney boy who's done this track a few times.
Yeah, Levi Clark coming in for the entry here, and pretty good. Not as aggressive as Shimmery in the chase, but a lot of smoke through there on the transition. Oh, both drivers dropped front wheels through there, so
good correction as well from Shimmery.
Yeah, we'll see how the judges rule on this one, but not much proximity. We go back to the replay here, and you can see, as I said, very conservative entry from the lead car there, but Shimmery just backing it right up on him with a lot of angle, but a bit of a mistake and a correction there. So it's going to be a difficult one to judge, and we'll be interested to see how it goes when they swap positions.
Yeah, fair to say that neither driver would be overly thrilled with how this first run went here. We can actually see the hands in the middle of the corner. There's the correction where he goes left hand over to the right and brings it back again. So pretty key camera angle to be able to see that correction from Scott Shimmery. His teammate James Abbott, who both drive for Three Fingers Neat. You can actually see the guys selling their merchandise in the background, is in the High-Tech Oils car this weekend, but was eliminated by Bo Yates in the round of 32. And he'll be eliminated in this round unless he can find something special. Right now, you have to say that maybe the judges will be leaning towards Levi Clark after seeing that correction for Shimmery.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be crucial for Clark to chase Shimmery as close as he possibly can here on the entry. So as they come off the line, it's going to be really interesting to see what sort of proximity he can put to Shimmery.
Levi Clark puts on such a professional outfit.
It's a beautifully prepared car. Both of them are really.
Oh, slow entry. Oh, Shimmery's going to have a problem.
Yeah, that can't be right. I don't know what's going on there.
Clark was onto the situation pretty quickly there. He realised that the entry speed was extremely slow. Shimmery's gaining his momentum. Actually, it's a pretty good angle and smoke to finish that one off, but he'll get crucified for this entry.
You can see here, Clark pretty much
rear
drops to avoid him.
Something was broken in the left rear of that car for Shimmery, definitely. It was rattling all over the place.
Didn't seem to affect him through the top section there, so I'm not quite sure. We'll get a good camera angle of it here.
Levi Clark saying, come on, buddy, what are we doing? Just never had a chance to get the power down at the beginning, and it was all about consolidation from there. Clark, unsurprisingly, gets the nod from the judges, all three of them.
It's good to see the judges actually recognise a lead car mistake later on in the competition here. A couple of times they've missed that earlier on.
Okay, now we go through the R32, which has taken out some big names today. It's Michael Rosenblatt and Nick Coulson, the drift kid in the Achilles Ute.
What an entry from the Newland 32, though, with Michael Rosenblatt. That is a fantastic run out in front, just putting the distance on Nick Coulson.
Nice run, Rosenblatt. He drove away from Coulson towards the end of this run. Let's check out the Achilles radial replay. The transition in the mid part of this run, Dave, is really spectacular. Not this one here, it's the next one. Watch the change in direction. Wham! Gets the back end of the skyline turned around nicely.
As they come up the hill, that lighter rear end in the Ute might be handicapping Nick Coulson there to get the power down up the hill.
Essentially just doing a massive burnout when you actually want to try and get just a little bit of traction to help you drive up the hill. So Coulson might be docked some proximity for that one. We'll find out now. He has the chance to do the leading. Won't hurt him so much when he's leading because it'll actually add to the style and flair.
That's it. It might make it a bit easier for Rosenblatt up the hill, but I guess we'll see that here. Very close on him on the tray. Snappy transition from Rosenblatt, but a bit of a correction.
Oh, and gets the curb too. Oh, and then a big understeer towards the top. He probably had that in the bag, Rosenblatt, but let it go in the last couple of corners.
Yeah, definitely. Despite popular belief, drifting is a lot about maintaining traction up that hill, and despite the lighter car in the rear, Coulson did manage to take the lead just because of a mistake from Rosenblatt.
And Rosenblatt getting that curb, and it put all the weight on the front tyres, and that's what caused him to go straight ahead. So the end result being that Coulson will be going on through, the judges giving the drift kid the nod, and now it's Bo Yates who's on track once again, and he'll do the chasing right now with Gaz Wider from New Zealand.
Gaz Wider's just had these entries dialed in. Bo Yates not using as much of the track there, and as they come to the transition, he's very close, but a bit of a dirt drop.
Slight correction as well out of the front end. Oh, there's the smoke pouring out of Gaz Wider's car. And we check out the Achilles replay, big handbrake work from the Wins 86.
And very close to the inside of the track as well. You really have to use all of that outside on South Circuit to get a proper entry. You can see the mistake there as well. Wider just putting down a flawless lead run compared to Bo Yates, is a bit skittish in the back.
Wider by name and wider by nature with the big smoke screen coming off the back. And let's just see what happens here with Bo Yates. His entries have been pretty slow, and it's caught the last few guys out. I wonder if Gaz Wider is going to be aware of that situation.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he responds. He seems to be a pretty dialed driver throughout this whole competition, so we should see how he goes.
Classic case of know your enemy, really, in this situation. Needs to be wise to that.
That's it. Drifting's all about emulating the lead car here, and you can see Wider's done a perfect job of doing that. He gave him plenty of distance on the entry, so he could really gain it up the hill where he knows he's got it.
Good angle for Bo Yates. Up over the hill. Bo doing pretty much everything he could there, but Gaz was very smart through this first corner. A lot of handbrake, slowed the entry speed down to make sure that he wasn't going to go barreling into the door of the 86.
It's worth noting here as well how well this car's set up inside with the handbrake right next to the gear lever. There's not a lot of left-hand movement here. Look at him just easily driving it in with the right hand. No worries.
Just tapping that handbrake back and forth, and Gaz Whiter gets the nod ahead of Bo Yates. We are down to the final four. It's Formula Drift Asia at Sydney Motorsport Park, thanks to High-Tech Oils and Achilles Radials. A quick break, don't go anywhere. Sydney Motorsport Park is cementing itself as the home of drifting in Australia, and now they have Formula Drift Asia in the house. It's the third round of their championship, which has already visited Thailand, Japan's Fuji Speedway, and now here we go with the final four. Formula Drift Asia, thanks to High-Tech Oils and also Achilles Radials, and we have one of the biggest names in the world out there right now, Freddie Asbo out of Norway, and this guy, Levi Clark.
Clark's been super dialed throughout the round, so it's going to be interesting to see him really try and test himself against an internationally regarded driver. Obviously pretty friendly in this competition, but it's about to get serious.
NASCAR-powered Toyota 86 will do the honours. Asbo to tip it in. Who's going to make the final two?
Oh, right on his door, Clark, but that actually might have hurt him a little bit. He had to brake check there to avoid contact.
Slows. Asbo slows, and Clark goes right into his door, caught him out. What happened there? Oh, you can actually look underneath the 86. There's something hanging down. Maybe that's broken something in the driveline. And Levi Clark swerving back and forth to see if his car's all right as well.
Looking in the replay, you can see Clark really trying to get the proximity there, eager to catch up, and he's put the hammer down just as Asbo's car's given up on him. It looks flapping around under there. It looks like maybe a drive shaft or the tail shaft even. Something has definitely let go. You can see from inside the car here, he let Asbo get away, so he's gotten right into it and really tried to catch him.
Ooh.
As just poor timing there.
Yeah, and Clark will know that that was some kind of mechanical error as Frederick Asbo, NASCAR engine, NASCAR exit out of the door. Probably because it's just been absolutely smacked as well, and that is very disappointing for Frederick Asbo leading the points. He gives the crowd a wave, and it looks like the 86 is going on the back of the tilt tray, and I guess that really gifts Levi Clark a spot in the final.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how he drives and who he comes up against, and that's going to be decided now with Nick Coulson.
And Gaz Whiter, so it's either going to be a Trans-Tasman final, or the final two could be an all-Australian affair, actually all-Queensland affair, with Levi Clark already locked into the final two. Coulson lights it up in the Achilles Radials ute. He will do the leading here, and it's Gaz Whiter to do the chase.
Both of them entering very close there, and as it comes up to this transition here, it's going to be interesting to see. Coulson has had some traction issues up the hill throughout the day, Whiter having no issues sticking with him, so I think this is going to be an interesting reversal.
That was a lot of smoke off the back of the Achilles Radial ute. I just wonder if Gaz Whiter got a little bit lost in all of that. Let's check it out.
Yeah, it can really blind you a bit coming up that hill at South Circuit. They're already pretty blind corners, so having that much smoke in front of you makes it very difficult to emulate the driver in front.
Tell you what, Gaz was actually fairly on him there. Here we go, handbrake, working the steering wheel with the right hand.
He's got that one-hand driving technique down. He looks like he's driving to the shops on a Sunday, not in top four of competition of Formula Drift Asia.
So cool, and actually the smoke not too bad from what we could tell with the onboard angle. So the Achilles Radial ute will now do the chasing.
Gaz Whiter out in front is going to be very interesting to watch. His entries have been dialed throughout the weekend, and as he comes up the hill, he packs on a lot of speed. So this is going to be a competitive round.
All right, who's going to make it into the final two to take on Levi Clark? Gaz Whiter sideways on entry is nice, but Coulson emulating that one just about perfectly. Proximity is good for the drift kit as well.
Skimming across the infield a little bit there. I'm not sure if the judges will pick him up on that, but gee, he is close.
Nice work from Coulson. He was very close to the back of the Tectolo car, and that might be enough to get him the nod from the judges. But as far as lead runs go as well, that one for Gaz White are pretty good.
We can see in the Achilles replay here, White is just on point, both chasing and leading, but Coulson's not giving anything away either. I'll be interested to see how the judges rule on this one.
Talk us through this one. It's going to be going the way of Coulson.
Only just though. I would have loved to see it one more time from the two. They really put on a show.
So Coulson's going through to take on Levi Clark. Let's catch up with what happened to Freddie Usbo.
Well, so we've been fighting issues all day. Had some clutch or drivetrain weird issues. And now against Levi Clark here, who's doing amazing, by the way, I lose all forward drive in the first turn. Turns out to be the U-joint on the drive shaft coming loose. Basically the drive shaft popping loose, and that's it.
Fantastic slow-mo vision thanks to high-tech oils, and it's amazing sport when you break it down, slow it down, and check out the technique of the world's very best drifters. This is Formula Drift Asia. Thanks to high-tech oils and Achilles radials, it's time to get into the final two. And despite the fact that the best from around Asia, including some giants like Max Cerrito, big names like Mad Mike Wedette, and even Frederick Usbo have all fallen by the wayside, as we have an all-Australian final with Levi Clark out on track right now and Nick Coulson, the drift kid, who is going to take home one of the biggest trophies Australian drifting has ever been able to give out. This is exciting.
It's fantastic to see local drivers on a local track in an international event, so it is really speaking loads for Australian drifting, and here they go now. Clark leading Coulson, coming in with a very skatey entry. Manages to pump a lot of angle in there, but Coulson is not phased. He is right on the door there.
Oh, Coulson with a little bit of a push through the second corner, a bit of a correction as well, and Clark will just eke out a little bit of a gap. Advantage Clark the first time through. Let's check out exactly what went wrong here for Coulson on the Achilles replay.
Clark in front with Coulson right behind him right until the elevation change. I mentioned it before that this ute might have some traction issues up the hill. The better rear end in that S15 Silvia just lets it pull away up the hill and put all that power to the ground. You can see it from another angle here. Coulson's right behind him on the entry, but as soon as that hill gets there, the high-powered Commodore ute just bags. He's all over the wheel to just try and get it up there and right into Clark's door, but unfortunately that Silvia is gone over the hill.
So 2 or 3 corrections for Nick Coulson, and it's advantage Levi Clark heading into the final today. It's the second run through, and this man with the extremely large handbrake ready to go has the advantage, you'd have to say, after that one. Excellent lead run.
Handbrakes are really essential in chase runs as well. It lets the driver wipe off a little bit of speed while maintaining angle.
So Coulson to do the leading right now, and he needs a massive finish to this event if he's going to climb to the top of the podium.
Both of them coming in fast, and Coulson actually putting on a bigger gap in the entry than Clark was able to, but Clark is catching up that hill. He's really able to put that power down, but he's gone.
He dropped off towards the back of that one a little bit, didn't he? Maybe the angle got a bit too great for him, so that might give Coulson a slight advantage in this second run through.
Clark disappears in the smoke, and he appears to be very close here, but it's possible that a correction in that second to last transition just tripped him up.
We miss exactly what happens here. This will give us an idea. Was it a correction, or did he just fail to keep that speed up? So far so good through the first 2 corners.
Here's where he really puts it on Coulson's door, and then the switchback. What happens? Let's find out.
There's no real correction there. It was just slow.
I guess it's just that high-powered ute just putting the gap on.
So Coulson gets out of his car in front of this massive crowd that has graced us today at Sydney Motorsport Park. He put on an awesome show. Frederick Usbo, who will be third today, comes over to high-five the boys. And it looks like it's going to be going the way of Levi Clark. He gets his hands on one of these awesome trophies. Let's have a word with our winner right now, Levi Clark. Well, Levi Clark, fantastic. Congratulations. That must be up there with one of the biggest wins you've ever had.
Yeah, no, it's definitely up there. We're just stoked to be part of Formula Drift and be here putting on display for Australia. And yeah, it's just awesome to come through with the win.
Nick said that he lost you in the smoke, so that's always a good sign.
Yeah, Osbo dropped a similar sentence to that about when we were having a few practice runs. So yeah, it must be putting off a bit of smoke back there.
Yeah, it was a good final. Love battling with Levi, both from Queensland, so it's good to have two Queenslanders on the podium for Formula Drift Asia around here in Sydney. And yeah, Levi put it to me. Nick Coulson can be very proud of his efforts today. Levi Clark was going to take some beating, and they managed to get onto the podium ahead of some huge international names, and it was fantastic seeing the likes of Mad Mike Widdett and that incredible Mazda, and guys like Max Arito come to Australia and race at Sydney Motorsport Park. Congratulations to Levi Clark. This has been Formula Drift Asia. Thanks for joining us.
Make some noise for our podium finishers. You're the first ever Formula Drift